From the city of Palms, deep in the heart of South Texas, where Texas strong is not a saying, it's a way of life.
Ooh,
You've tuned in to RTD Radio.
good for you.
That's right.
Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to Road to Damascus Radio.com, YouTube channel, Camino a Damasco Radio.com for our listeners in Spanish. Not going to dwell too much on the social media platforms and get right into it. Today is, I guess, part 2.
Yeah, it's going to be part 2 of our End Times series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of who knows how many parts.
Who knows how many parts. Right now we got quite a few topics in the works, in the pipeline, that we're going to be discussing. I know last week we touched on CERN. Yeah. And I think you wanted to finish up on a few other concepts and a few other ideas to talk about.
Yep. The idea is that we are starting with end times themes and approaching it from a tangible, material point of view so that we can slowly graduate into the immaterial, metaphoric, intangible things. So, like Mando was mentioning, we started with CERN as the most tangible, concrete, physical thing that you can actually go and touch and feel.
You can go get a t-shirt.
Yeah, you can take a tour.
And get the t-shirt,
And get a t-shirt. And just a little bit of history behind CERN, which we've already given. Some of the things that have been, quote unquote, discovered at CERN, which when you lay them out, start seeming like there's a planned agenda pushing the development and the discoveries of these technologies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't really want to recap anything because we have the show. If you want, you just go back and listen to it. But I did want to emphasize 2 things that I did not mention in the last show and that are very relevant. And that is that CERN physically is built on top of what used to be the temple to Apollyon, which is a Greek god. And actually, there's a very interesting book by Tom Horn and forgetting his name. It's literally called Abaddon Ascending. That's Tom Horn and
isn't that Josh Peck or no?
Josh Peck. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why I forgot that one. And they make a case for the apparition of Abaddon, which is also known as Apollyon, as the opening of the abyss and Abaddon ascending from there in a kind of metaphorical way. I thought it was a ingenious title because they are approaching kind of like what we're doing. They're approaching mysticism through a very physical lens and relating it to Bible and the Bible prophecies. So I think this is an important thing to note. This place is built on a temple that is prophesied to bring forth destruction. And all of the technologies...
Coincidentally, right?
Yeah, I mean, coincidentally, quote unquote. And all of the technologies that have been discovered or that have been, I'm going to use the word fathered, here at this place have become an intimate part of our modern day lives and seem to be serving the purpose of bringing forth what is referred to in end times prophecy as the tribulation and the mechanisms of tribulation, specifically parts of the mark of the beast, which is something that we're gonna get into a little bit later on this show. Specifically, the internet. One of the biggest things that we were talking about that was fathered here at CERN is now a very important, integral part of our modern day lives. And it just seems like it's a cage that's slowly starting to close around us. You know, before it was like, oh, cool, we have communications and we can do all these wonderful things through internet. And lately I've been getting a sense that all of this monitoring and all of these cameras all over the place, all of this snooping that's going around has really taken our freedoms in a sense. You know, on one hand, you have the ability to look up
everything and anything
at a moment's notice. And at the same time, that excessive information for some people has turned into just noise.
Yeah.
You know, going back a little bit to something that was said in, was it Orwell who did 1984?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and he was mentioning that access to information in the Orwellian future was going to be futile because there was going to be so much information that nobody would be able to discern truth from fiction. Which, you know, nowadays the term fake news has been coined and has been thrown around out there, and that just kind of exemplifies where we're at. You know, yeah, we have access to all this information, but how trustworthy is it?
Yeah.
You know,
just because the internet says something doesn't make it true.
Doesn't make it true, exactly. Yeah. But at the same time, some of the most profound and hidden gems can be found on the internet. You know, like Road to Damascus Radio. I'm just
yeah.
No, but yeah, and just kind of close on that. There's this physical, tangible place where the modern day priests, and that's how I'm going to refer to them, these scientists, gather and experiment and come up with these new ideas by which we base our current society on. You know, Mando mentioned the famous God particle, which is really a nickname for the Higgs boson particle, which more specifically, what they were trying to do was discover or prove the Higgs field. And to not get too deep into that kind of stuff and just kind of, you know, put a lid on CERN and all that, there's this place, CERN, is where these people meet. They're advancing technology, and it's serving the purpose of identifying and systematically numbering or putting a type of tag on each individual who makes a part or who is part of this network of knowledge. Because in order to partake of this knowledge, you have to go through an entry point. And all entry points nowadays are logged, cataloged, and monitored. So effectively, the system is aware of what individuals are doing within the system, what they're interested in, what kind of questions they're asking, who they're interacting with, how, at what time, and all this information is being gathered. And at some point, if we look at all this through the biblical lens, it seems to be leading up to the descriptions of end times and everything that it entails. I mean, I don't know about you, Mando, but that's what it seems like to me. I'd love to hear some of those comments out there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? What do you think about CERN? Is there any other facts? I mean, there's a lot. You know, people have written books and spent hours and hours discussions on CERN, but you know, let's get a conversation going. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know we gave some kind of examples on how coincidences that made it seem nefarious, and Just like you said, let's get your thoughts on that. Just the coincidence of the logo, or the coincidence of where it's located, the coincidence of some of the rituals being performed by the staff. Yeah. Just coincidences. Now, if you believe in coincidences, well then, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But if not, if you're like us and tend to think that after so many coincidences, it's a trend and it's an agenda, then I would encourage you guys to look up on it as well and get back to us.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on, I know you threw out words like Apollyon and Abaddon, things like that. Well, if you go to dictionary.com, look up Apollyon, the actual definition is literally the destroyer, the angel of the bottomless pit.
There you go.
So an Abaddon would actually be hell. Yeah. So Apollyon would come out. Abaddon is the place where Apollyon is coming out of that place.
Yeah.
So just to kind of... so you can know what it means. Now, like that book you said, Apollyon or Abaddon Ascending.
Abaddon Ascending.
Yeah, so it's pretty much hell is coming up on Earth.
Through the gates.
And if there's a gate, and we got this organization in Europe trying to make, in their own words, a gate, a portal.
Yeah, a tunnel.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a little, once again, coincidence.
Yeah.
But, and on top of that, it's on a temple of Apollyon. So, so it just makes you think out there, yeah.
Yeah, literally built on top. That's scary, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's your empirical data that I keep talking about. Anyways, so moving forward from CERN, and we gave a brief list of some of the topics we want to cover here on our End Times shows, but trying to move in the direction of tangible to least tangible things. I think the next step here would be the actual mark of the beast.
That's referenced in Revelation, yeah.
Seeing as this is described as a very tangible thing that at some point will everybody alive will have to face, decide upon, and pretty much endure, I guess. I mean, I think you should enlighten us with the actual scripture first before we...
Yeah, well, let me read the scripture and then I'll kind of touch on what you said. Yeah. So the actual verse is in Revelation 13, 16, and 17. And that's going to be, of course, sorry, like the book of Revelation. Now, this is not the only mention of it. It's mentioned in other parts of Revelation.
Okay.
But this is the first actual instance where it's said. So the verse goes, "He causes all," he being the Antichrist or Satan, "both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name." So that's the verse. So it being tangible or non-tangible, it doesn't say. It just says the mark. Technically, a freckle is a mark.
Yeah.
I mean, or it could also be like an actual branding, like you would brand like a livestock. So it's just some kind of something separating you from those that don't have this mark.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of theories out there as to what this mark actually is, and of course, the prevailing theory is some kind of microchip.
Yeah.
That you're going to have to buy and sell with.
Yeah.
Now, even nowadays, I think you had that company up north in Michigan or Minnesota, something like that, where they actually microchip their employees,
and there's been a few
so that they can open doors and buy things or whatever.
Yeah.
And of course, the first thing you got the truther community out there is just going all crazy on, it's the mark, it's the mark.
Yeah. Well, but they said that about credit cards back in the day.
And they said that about Social Security cards.
Social
Security numbers. And they said that about driver's licenses. And they said, so really, if you listen to some of these guys, there's like 20 marks of the beast out there. So
yeah.
Yes. But, that's going to be the prevailing response to what the mark is, just because of now. Just the fact that even your debit card more than likely has that chip inside of it. So technically you can't buy or sell without your card. Yeah. I mean, obviously you can go take cash, but as that's kind of being phased out or not too in vogue right now, was it like something like 90% of all transactions are done with the card electronically.
That and the cryptocurrencies.
Cryptocurrencies, not to mention your phone itself is the Apple Pay, Samsung Pay.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to pay that you really don't even, the need for cash is not even there anymore.
Yeah.
So as of now, it's not required to pay with non-cashable transactions.
As long as you're a part of this network.
No, like I said, right now it's not forced upon anybody. If I wanted to, I can pay with cash or coins.
If you want to use these systems, all you have to do is be a part of this network and submit your funds to these organizations. You know, like Apple Pay or like you were saying.
You pretty much, you can't transact any kind of commerce without taking this mark. Yeah. Now, why is it such a big deal on the mark? Because people, I can hear people like, well, it's just, how am I going to eat?
Yeah.
How am I going to work? How am I going to do anything? Well, because in all of the Bible, there's literally 2 times or 2 sins that God does not forgive.
Yeah.
One, of course, being blaspheming the Holy Spirit. And the second, of course, being taking the mark.
Yeah.
So people, anybody that does either one of those, you've already literally, like, you're done. There's no forgiveness for either one.
Yeah.
Now, it's that grave that God forgives a lot. God's pretty forgiving.
Yeah.
But taking this mark is equivalent to, like, it's just the worst possible affront to him. It's on par with blaspheming the Spirit itself.
It's even more than actually killing somebody else.
Yes, it's actually murder can be forgiven.
Yeah.
This can't. Yeah.
So that speaks a lot about.
So for some of you thinking, it's not a big deal. You're talking about your eternal soul, because once you take the mark, whatever the mark may be, there's no going back.
Yeah.
It's something that's going to be permanent.
This is why I call it a tangible thing, because it's once you take this mark, physical changes will occur within the body. Again, it doesn't literally say that in the Bible, but it kind of alludes to you not being able to partake of physical activities unless you have this mark. So at least in my mind, I'm thinking that whatever this mark does to the taker has to change this person. And it's not like you're going to be fooled into taking it or not, or you're not going to be sure if you took it or not. Just by the severity and, like you're mentioning, the punishment for receiving it, it just seems like it's going to be a extremely clear and straightforward thing. Now, what it could be at this point, we're speculating. Like,
we're just giving our
Mando
opinion.
says, and I'm actually keen to the idea of it being a combination of things, but primarily a genetic change, which is something that's talked about in genetic circles. We have now, I don't want to say discovered the whole genome, because there's still certain parts of it, but they've sequenced the genome, I think, to like 99 point whatever
something like that, yeah.
percent. And the only way that we would gain or acquire what we could describe as superhuman abilities would be to actually add a strand to our current DNA, which geneticists, again, have seen indirect examples of certain organisms having more than our double helix, as in a third strand.
Mm-hmm.
And this strand giving rise to physical manifestations that to us would seem like incredible, right? And just to me, as a very personal opinion, the way the Bible describes the happenings after taking the mark, it just seems like people would need to want heavily to take this mark. And at the current state in which we're at, I could see a lot of people taking it. I mean, like you said, there's people that take it just to open a door.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were promised telepathic abilities or superhuman strength or
whatever,
whatever, I could see people lining up.
Yeah, so actually, even if there wasn't promised some kind of extra ability, just the fact that people would be hungry and starving, it's gonna make them take the mark. So they're gonna give up their in essence their freedom for food.
At some point.
I mean, you got people now that are willing to do anything for a iPhone.
I'm gonna say though that it just seems to me by the rather vague description that there's gonna be some time between the introduction of the mark and then the forcing of the mark upon those who weren't dazzled.
I don't think it could be forced on you. I think it's something you have to take. Because it never says that he... Well, it just said he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except anyone who has a mark or the name of the beast. So if you take it, he causes all, like, I don't know if that can be... Well, then, if he's forcing everybody to take it, then who's left? You see what I'm saying?
Well, like the rebellious one, that's
well, it's just it. All is how much?
What about the second...
all is all.
Reference.
What?
To the mark. You said there's two references.
Yeah, the rest
right?
are more like the punishments for taking it.
Oh, okay. So it's
the second one would be Revelation 14:11, and the smoke of their torment will rise forever and ever, and there will be no rest day or night for those who worship the beast and its image, or for anyone who receives the mark of its name. So the rest, you got Revelation 16:2, Revelation 19:20. It's more of like the punishment for those that take the mark, not of like what they're doing in the meantime, stuff like that.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But I don't think it's forced upon you, because I don't think anybody can forcefully take your salvation away.
Yeah.
It has to be something given. I know we did a huge show on possessions. Even a demon can't forcefully take me over. No. I have to give it the legal right.
Yeah.
So even this mark, I mean, if it's straight out, I can actually imagine where it's some kind of enforcement agency taking people out, putting them on their knees and say, take the mark or I'll shoot you. You say no, they shoot you right then and there.
I'd call that pretty forceful. Well,
no, they didn't force you to take it. Forcing would be holding me down and injecting me with whatever they have against my will. That is a difference. Okay. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Forcefully would be drugging me. I wake up and now I have the mark.
I understand now. So
like me giving the option to take the mark or die. That's, like I just said, giving me the option.
Yeah.
So I can see 99.9% of everybody saying, "Give me the mark."
So there's an element of individuality to the taking or not of it, because, like you said, I could see a scenario where there's an agency that's pretty much, obligating people, but they're not physically able to complete the transaction unless free will.
Yeah, you have to choose to take it. Because then, like I said, legally, they're doing what you're wanting them to do.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between going to a bar and getting drunk or going to the bar and somebody drugging you. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it as far as the mark. Now, I tend to agree with you as far as it's going to be more of a genetic mark than it is going to be a microchip. And I have a lot of reasons. But just to finish up on that, we're talking about I personally believe, yes, like I can see a scenario where I can imagine some agency going quite literally door to door.
Yeah.
And just making you choose between taking the mark or going to some camp. Yeah. And of course that camp being pretty much where you're going to die. I can see families split up. I can see a father choosing yes and a son choosing no, vice versa. I can totally see that families broken up over who wants to take the mark and who wants. I can see husbands and wives where one does and one doesn't.
Which would make this mark a plainly identifiable thing.
Yeah, it's going to identify you.
So it's not like they're lying to us about a virus and this vaccination being the only way to save you.
Like I said, I myself don't see it like that. Yeah. On the other hand, I look at the flu vaccine. you get the flu shot.
Yeah.
Now, as of now, it's not being forced on anybody.
No.
I mean, the government or whatever health authorities, of course, recommend that you get it. But there's done so many studies. I mean, nobody's, like I said, nobody's actually coming office to office, door to door, holding me down, injecting me with the flu virus. Say, okay, thank you, bye. Nobody's doing that.
No, but at the same time, regular vaccinations, again, they're not coming door to door to
even
to force
those
it upon you.
Even those,
but
I don't have to do that.
Try and get insurance for your child if they're not properly vaccinated.
No, I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, I'm not required to get insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not required. Now, if I want to put my kid in a public school, well, then yes, in some states. But that same thing, I'll be honest. Yeah. I mean, straight out to counter what you just said.
Yeah.
Go be Amish. They don't have socials. They don't take vaccines. Now, is somebody forcing them to do it? No, they chose to live that lifestyle. Yeah. Now, look what they're giving up. They're giving up, of course, technology, the internet, electricity, all these what we would call benefits of modernity.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, who's happier? You see what I'm saying?
Well,
it's just like it's that give and take. So nobody's like, even when I was born, I don't have to use my social security number. No, but like you said, good luck trying to get a job with it, unless I go do my own thing. Nothing's forced on you.
Yeah, no,
it's just the way the system works, and we become enslaved to it by our own shackles.
But then by that standard, then the mark could actually already be here.
I don't know about that, because the second part where you have to buy and sell with it. Yeah. So like I said, I can take out cash from the ATM and go buy and sell with it.
Yeah.
Or not even that, I can go barter. Or even on top of that, I can use
cash,
coin.
Though. I mean, it's not like you had the huge stack of cash at your house.
Or I could walk to any bank, even without a card, and still take out cash.
Just go into that example of the
beyond
people
the point.
in the 80s who were talking about the mark being credit cards. You know, I mean, there's going to be arguments for and against all day long. And, you know,
some people say even your cell phone would be the mark. Yeah. Because it's going to be in your right hand or your forehead when you're talking. So it's vague for a purpose, but it has what it needs. I'll say that. For one, I think it keeps you aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know anybody that can pay with a credit card using their forehead.
Well, unless you got that chip in your head.
But even then, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just... And also, to go back to my argument, I don't think it's going to be a chip, because for me, that's just way too obvious.
Yeah.
That's like the most obvious answer. And for the most part, from what I've read in the Bible and from just studying and just experience, the devil's pretty subtle. He tries to kind of hide what he's doing, not make things so obvious. So, like, if he's trying to trick you, it's not going to work if you know the trick or if you can see the trick coming.
Yeah,
it's like kind of, then what's the point or whatever. But I mean, I just mean, like you said, the chip could be part of it. I don't see a chip as the mark.
No.
So I can see where you're going, but like you said, I think every generation has their new mark.
Well, let's attack this aspect. You were mentioning how forgiving God is. What would somebody need to do or stop being in order for taking the mark to be something that he's not even willing to consider? I mean, I don't, in my mind, the only people that I've seen that he tried to eradicate in the Bible were those that had corrupted their genetics, right? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the ites, which were the ones that, you know, God, or what's it called, ordained for destruction, or what's the actual term?
Yeah, I mean,
marked for destruction.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
They were not totally human anymore. You know, I get this a lot when I start talking, you know, the gospel to people, and the knee-jerk response of, well, how can you believe in a benevolent God who literally tells, you know, his soldiers to kill man, woman, child, beast, and everything? I mean, that's pretty harsh. And the response I have is, I mean, look who he's trying to kill. According to scripture, these are direct descendants of, corrupted genetics.
The hybrids, yeah.
They're hybrids. So just to me, that's kind of why it reinforces this mark needing to make genetic changes in you, which would be an abomination to God's creation. Saying, hey, you know what? I can forgive anything except you trying not to be creation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and not to quote, I know in listening to different radio interviews, Timothy Alberino had that same thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of, not to piggyback off him or even copy him, because he's pretty awesome, but yeah, just like what you said, just read your Bible for one, and you'll realize that all these peoples that were destroyed back then, they weren't even fully human. They were hybrids.
Yeah.
Now, some of you can be like, what? What's a hybrid? Well, straight out, honestly, majority of animals on Earth right now were a mixture of two different species or different races of their kind. So they themselves are hybrids.
Yeah.
Now, me and you, given that we're quote-unquote Hispanic/Latino,
yeah, we're kind of
back down the line, a Spanish person from Spain and an indigenous person from the United States mixed together, and now we're an entire peoples now.
Yeah.
So are we kind of hybrids?
In a sense.
In a sense, yes. Of course, we're still human beings.
Yeah.
But I know in what Alberino I kind of pushed, he was kind of get the point across that when God made Adam and Eve and he gave them dominion over the earth, he legally passed that down, the dominion to human beings, being Adam. So once you deny or become non-human, then you're not even eligible for salvation. So that being said, if you take the mark, and there's some kind of change on the genetic level where you're not even fully human anymore, I can see that as a reason why you're no longer eligible for salvation. Because of the fact God came to save mankind, not hybrid kind, not mutants, if you want to use the X-Men term, not superhumans. He came to save me and you, not superhuman Hulk Carlos, or Mondo's X-ray vision, Carlos, or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Which, if you get offered that, I can see.
Yeah, I can see somebody just, and then we think, that's crazy. Well, look at the CRISPR stuff going on. Now you're able to splice genes.
Yeah.
Things like that. College kids can do it. Anybody can do it in their garage or whatever.
Which is a really good point. When they came out with CRISPR, they hailed it as like this massive achievement in genetics. And a lot of those same people have fallen back to saying,
like, what do we do?
I don't think that was such a good idea.
Yeah.
Because now you've possibly introduced junk reactions into what used to be perfectly good genetic code.
Yeah, so you got these abominations
already happening at a home level.
Yeah, and I've seen videos on YouTube of kids, like, they're practicing on like fruits and vegetables, of course.
Yeah.
They're just on inanimate objects where they'll make I remember when I was in college, there was something called a grapple. Half a grape, half an apple.
Yeah, I've heard
stuff like that. Now, did I try it? Yeah, I wanted to try it. It was good.
Yeah.
It was all right. But, it's all fun and games until now they start making like a half human, half pig. Yeah. Or a half dog, or a cat dog. Stuff like that. You know what? That's actually possible now. Things like that.
Here's an aspect that I guess we'll cover here on the show that I've been wanting to ask you. It seems to me that in the past, the technologies of the fallen angels, the Watchers and everything, had more to do with a connection to the spirit realm or spiritual dimensions. And this is how they created their hybrids. Whereas now it seems that there's a very technological means of trying to achieve what they used to achieve through spiritual means.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? How do you think that plays into end times? Do you think that it's the reason why the devil schemed for so long is so that he could achieve in physical, material, undeniable form the things that used to be, that that his descendants used to be able to do through spiritual means? Do you think that plays into all this? Or do you think end times is purely spiritual?
No, I think it's the opposite. It's not that it's not spiritual. I think that, from what I understand, even back then, the fact of the concept of a spiritual realm or anything paranormal was something more normal, more accepted back then.
Okay, yeah.
And of course, going back to like what you said, how the technology of these quote unquote fallen was more spiritual, would only make sense because given themselves, they were from a spiritual realm.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Now I can see the early humans trying to mimic that with what they could.
Yeah.
But I also think that over time, what the devil is trying to do is trying to quite literally remove all sense of spirituality or spiritualism from human beings in general, to the point where they don't believe anything anymore.
Okay.
So I can see, like, we all have family members back in the old country that are more spiritual, where they believe in magic, witchcraft, miracles. Yeah. They believe in that stuff. But talk to some of the new generations. Yeah. They don't, honestly, straight out, they don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
They don't believe in anything. I mean, so they almost quite literally lose that spiritualistic aspect to them, to the point where they don't even think they have a spirit. So if they don't think they have a spirit, then what's the point of not taking the beast, the mark of the beast, when they have nothing to lose? You see what I'm saying? They don't even believe that they themselves have a soul. So these atheists out there, for example, they don't believe they have a soul. So why am I going to do something or not do something that's going to condemn my soul when I don't even believe I have one? Yeah, I think the whole point is, or one of the tactics that the devil's going to try to use is to try to remove all spiritualism as much as possible, to the point where we don't even believe anything, and we only believe what we're told or what we can see. Okay. And he's going to use all signs and wonders to do it. He's going to use his modern day priests to do it. So when somebody there's a miracle baby, all of a sudden you got that doctor, I can scientifically prove it, why it happened. Or when you got those miraculous healings or some weather pattern or whatever, face on the Mars, there's always some scientific explanation. It can never just be a miracle. It can never just be a phenomenon. It's always explained by science, to the point where you almost kill spiritualism. And God, of course, being the Holy Spirit, he's doing his best to kill God in our minds and in our hearts, to the point where, like I said, there's no consequence anymore.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's how I see it in the grand scheme of things.
So you think the proliferation of science has actually been a tactic that the devil has employed?
Going back to it, I don't think science is bad in itself. No, God created science. He created the ability of us to reason, to figure out how creation works by using science. So it's just how we use it. Yeah. So, like I said, if I were to use science to try to figure out radio waves and connections, so that me and you can talk to our listeners over the airwaves, see, that's a good. I think that that's all right. But if I try to use science to literally go out of my way to disprove anything that is not scientific, then I think it's how you use it. But the proliferation of science, from what I understand, the majority of scientists are not atheists, or are not going out of their way to get God out of everything. It's just this small, loud minority that just dominates the narrative. A good example, climate change. 9 out of 10 scientists say, 90% of scientist community say, when you got videos, you got testimony of actual scientists out there, that's not true,
that are not on payroll.
Exactly.
The payroll.
And there's I think I referenced it in the other episode, where you got the creator of Weather Channel straight out give the answer. The only scientists that are pushing climate change are the ones on the payroll of the government. Yeah. The other billion scientists out there are completely disagreeing with that. So I think it's this small, loud faction within the scientific community that is pushing this entire scientific agenda, where science only. But the thing is, it's also the fault of the other 90% for being quiet.
Well, either that,
they're being pushed. They're letting themselves get rolled over. It doesn't. I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter their intention. They're quiet. They're no different than the guy walking by the house on fire, not doing anything. Yeah, that's the way I see it. Well, but you know what? They're threatened with their jobs, their careers. You know what? At what point do you say enough is enough, where your job is more important than the future generation, the knowledge of all children? See what I'm saying? Yeah, I see you kind of have to sacrifice yourself. Or you know what? Find a way. Do it anonymously. But still, it's
which is barely starting to happen.
Yeah, now you got these quote unquote whistleblowers, but
yeah,
like I said, going back to it, I think at the end of the day, this whole spiritualism, like the devil is going out of his way to kill anything spiritual. Church attendance is down. Churches don't even talk about anything spiritual. Something like 60 to 70% of the church doesn't even believe that Satan exists.
Yeah.
So he's already won. Straight out, he already won. He's won this battle. So if the church in itself, which is supposed to be preaching or teaching from this massively spiritual book, is now slowly going away from spiritualism, then what are you really preaching? Nothing. It's just words. So that's where I think it's going. But on the mark, that's why I said eventually it's going to come to a point where there's no consequence, that people don't even think twice about taking this mark because of the fact, for what? They don't even believe in anything spiritual anymore. They don't believe in a heaven or a hell. They believe everybody's going to some paradise. Or on the flip side, they don't even believe you have a soul. So what are you trying to preserve by not taking this? I'm gonna sit here and starve and watch my kids die to protect my soul, which I don't believe in. No, give me the mark. Yeah, so I can totally see the decline of anything spiritual. And I'm not just talking about Christianity. I'm talking about religion in general. It's on the decline worldwide.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not even like some American phenomenon or some European phenomenon or whatever. No, it's like this straight out like worldwide where there's a general decline in believing in anything.
Yeah.
So it's just I can see that trending where eventually that decline is going to be so great that anything religious will be a huge minority or seen as a thing of the past, the way we view the old Greeks believing in Zeus and all them. Yeah. That's to the point where I see. Now also, like going back to the mark, I can see people getting kind of coerced into it if you believe it's something genetic.
Yeah.
Into the point where, let's say, I find out I have some genetic trait where I'm going to get cancer or I'm going to have some defect or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, that's just the way it is. That's the way I am genetically. But I can see some new pharmaceutical corporation out there, XYZ Corp. Well, if we alter your genetics, we can actually take out that defective gene and put you a new one. Right off the bat, you're already altering what God created.
Yeah.
And you're giving it yourself to the hands of these people to do what they can or to change you. Now, also, I can see any kind of genetic change as something as an affront to God, specifically because God created human beings in His image. Yeah. So, for a human being or any other entity out there to think that they can do better than what God has created, that's straight out like a slap in the face. So it's like God's giving you this awesome body, this thing called a human body. He's giving it to you. Now He's telling you to take care of it, feed it. I mean, do as best you can with it. That's why there's like rules against getting tattoos.
Yeah.
Or defiling your body with certain foods or certain activities, sexual immorality, things like that. Now, think of it from that point of view. It's because God's giving you this gift of a body.
Yeah.
Now, if I go to some doctor and this doctor tells me, well, I can give you green eyes where God gave you blue, or I can give you blonde hair where God gave you red, or I can give you different color skin where God gave you that, and you do it, you're pretty much saying, you know what, God, your gift was all right, but I'm going to go with this guy because he can do it better.
Yeah.
So that's a huge affront to God.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So I can see that as a way where, you know what, that's unforgivable because you're willfully giving God the finger and saying, I can do better, or this other thing can do better, and I'm gonna willfully choose to go with Him so He can recreate me.
Yeah. Where
you failed.
Yeah.
I can see that coming, and I can see that's why God would take it so serious. And the fact that once you quite literally lose your humanity,
yeah,
you're no longer eligible for salvation, at least through Him, anyways, which is the only way. That is just like you're lost. You gave up your everything for a new ability or a new hair color or whatever.
Yeah. No, I agree. We'd have to think about that one a little bit because I don't see how the ability to pay for goods and services would factor into a genetic modification. Unless...
I could. Yeah, I could. I could see... Of course, I really try to view the world in a non-U.S. centered ideology. I hate the fact when I'm either in visiting church or hearing an argument or hearing some kind of video, Everything's about the U.S. Everything's about the U.S. The U.S. this, the U.S. in the Bible. The U.S. is this. The U.S. and that. U.S. Well, you know what? There's a whole world outside there besides the U.S.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but God didn't come to save the U.S. He came to save the world.
Yeah.
So I could totally see the U.S. not existing during this time, and I could totally see a system of society where it's like a caste system, where these genetically modified humans are going to be the top caste, where they're going to be Homo superior, and us regular humans are the lower ones, and the only way, and you can't even buy, you're the peons, you're the slaves now to your overlords, your genetically superior ones. Yeah. And the only way to become a genetically superior one is to do what? To take that mark to buy and sell. I could totally see that happening.
Yeah.
Where if you're an inferior, like, think of it like the slaves. The slaves could not buy and sell. In the United States anyways. Yeah. The masters could. The slaves just worked.
Yeah, but, yeah. I mean,
like I could totally see that.
Abolish individual worth.
And that's not happening right now? And that's not happening right now?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I do agree with you on the Bible not being U.S.-centric. And if you believe that the Bible is referring to the U.S. as Babylon, I mean, it's supposed to fall.
Which I do not, but yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's supposed to fall. So, I don't know at what moment the mark gets introduced. And again, we just talked a little bit about, by certain standards, the mark could probably already be here.
Yeah. And going back to it, why are we assuming that the mark is being forced by even like us in this part of the world?
Yeah.
Now, I could totally see the mark or this beast in Europe somewhere, in Asia and China, or somewhere over there where he's forcing whatever nation he's currently ruling over to take this mark or starve, where me and you at this point in time, since we're on the literally other side of the world, it's not going to affect us.
Yeah.
Because in this case, you would have to go into the whole one world government, things like that.
Yeah.
See, there's no even governing body now. For one, there's not a governing body. For two, there's not a global currency. Three, there's not a single leader. So a lot of things have to go in place. But I myself could totally see a system in place where there's ruling elite, which, like you said, it's already now. There's ruling elite are the only ones allowed to actually legally buy and trade because they have this trait, this mark, where the rest of us are either wiped out and don't exist anymore, or forced into hiding, or just forced into some kind of servitude, or imprisoned. I could see that.
Yeah, I could see that one working.
Where there's no more countries.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that need to happen in order for the way the mark is described in the Bible to fit our current paradigm of society. Unless something drastically changes. Now, here's another aspect to that I had pondered since we started talking about doing this end times thing. And because it all started with this famous Revelation 12 sign in the Astros. And there's a part of that mentions 1/3 of the angels being thrown out of heaven. There quite possibly could be a situation where angelic beings are cast out, are physically seen here on earth, and like you mentioned, a combination of us being inferior to their abilities, and all of a sudden governments cease to have power over this group of angelic beings that are ruthless and just demolishing anything and anybody that gets in their way. And all of a sudden, this one world currency, one world order, this whole thing gets instituted in pretty much a week's time, to where this superior force, which might even be hidden behind an alien attack. I mean, because if aliens come, of course, Mano and I think that these are actually demons. But let's just say we hide it behind an alien attack. Aliens come, straight demolish capital cities around the world.
Any defense we have is useless.
Any defense we have is useless. Like, within a matter of days, a one world government, a one world currency would be formed, like, immediately in response to this imminent attack that we're facing. So I don't know. I think whatever could happen at whatever time and really quickly. But again,
I could totally see it in, like you
said, taking
a
long time too.
No, I can see taking a long time, but I see it more as taking in the middle. I could totally see where this armada of aliens or extraterrestrial creatures comes to the U.S., invades, and just straight out, like you said, like just, I mean, no
dominates.
Resistance. Yeah, there's just, what are you gonna do? Our weapons are inferior. Whatever advances in technologies we think we had is just gone. All it takes is an EMP. It's not even, honestly, just look it up. It's not that hard to take down the world. Anyways, going back to it, I could totally see where just when mankind is at the point of just like, boom, like we're extinction, hope is all gone, there's one individual comes and somehow barters his truce between the aliens and humans, and now is seen as some savior. I could totally see that happening. Of course, the aliens in this scenario, like me and you believe, are actually not aliens. Yeah, they're actually demons or demonic entities or fallen angels, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. So I could see that happening.
I had thought about it the other day, and you let me borrow a TV series, V. Yeah. And there's this thing on this 80s TV series where aliens come. It's kind of like the scenario we're talking about, and the way that humans counteract this alien invasion is something about the red dust, right? Which is kind of like a viral agent that humans release into the atmosphere that the aliens
the visitors,
that they can't live, with. So just reinforcing the idea that end times could come upon us within a week's time, and boom, we're thrust into all these descriptions that the book of Revelations describes, and countries going to war against each other, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's quite possible that a deception, because it's the Great Deception is talked about. It's not specifically mentioned what it is. There's just a great deception that's talked about. And maybe it goes along this line. Like, we have this alien invasion. They're dominating. But we have this vaccine. Yeah. If you're exposed to an alien, you're going to get their
whatever diseases they have.
Diseases they have. And, because we had to institute this one world government, one world order in order to save whatever part of humanity there is.
Say whatever was left. Let's say a third died. Just out of coincidence. That's what the Bible says.
Yeah, what the Bible says. If you don't take this vaccine, we can't trust you. So you're out of our economic system. You're pretty much an outcast of the society that's trying to stay at bay from this alien invasion. That's why I can see it like a
lower caste. That's why I see it more as like a lower caste system, where a lot of people think that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, honestly, like in India, you literally have people called the untouchables. Yeah. Where because you can't even go touch them. Yeah. And they hold jobs like the lowest of jobs, like burning bodies. Yeah. Burying the dead. Yeah. Sanitation. I mean, just these like lowest of the low jobs. Now, do caste systems exist? Yes, I would say yes. Of course. So, an example, it would be forbidden for somebody in a higher caste to transact with anybody in a lower caste. Yeah. Even on a physical or even on like just speaking to them. So
yeah, capitalism is a caste system, bro.
It isn't. But
I mean, there's people that live a lifestyle where the lower echelon slaves, they don't even make enough to drink, the same water that the people at the top do. I mean, physically it's the same water, but because it's at a X place, X restaurant or whatever, you've got $50 bottled waters And someone who's making $300 a week is just like, nah, man, that's not gonna happen. So I guess to recap, what is the mark of the beast? We don't know. We can speculate. We can make some pretty informed speculations based on the technologies we have and that we can observe today. But several conditions need to be met in order for the mark to be instituted, and the majority of those conditions are not met today. Pretty close to it, but not met verbatim. So I'm interested in listening to the comments on this one too.
Yeah.
What do y'all think the mark is, can be, will be? What are your thoughts? Comment below. I don't know. You want to add something to that one?
Yeah, no, definitely. Also, I think one of the reasons that a lot of people will be taking the mark is also just a lack of knowledge. They're not even going to identify whatever they're taking as a mark or the mark referenced in by the book of Revelation. So it's just a lack of knowledge and ignorance, whether it be their fault or just willful ignorance, or just they just didn't know. So I think another reason why the devil isn't he's not only just trying to cure spiritualism, he's trying to keep you as far away from the Bible as possible. Yeah. If I were to ask the common 15, 16-year-old in any school, they know of the Bible, but I doubt a majority of them has ever opened it up.
Yeah.
So that's going to continue to decline over time, where I would say within 2 generations, the awareness of the way the Bible even exists is going to go down so much to the point where people won't even know what the mark is. It's going to be something so archaic or something so just like whatever. So that's why I would encourage myself as a parent, or even you as a parent, or even just us if you're a so-called Christian, to educate each other on the mark. Now, there's a author out there named Catherine Albright. She's frequently on Coast to Coast and on other shows where she makes it one of her life missions to educate as many children as she can about the mark of the beast. Not, of course, not what it is, but the consequences of taking this mark.
Yeah.
Now, she wrote a book called I Won't Take the Mark, a Bible book and contract for children.
Wow.
Where it's a children's book where it educates the child on what the mark of the beast is going to do to them and the consequences of taking it. Yeah. And at the very end, they sign a little contract pretty much pledging that they're not going to take the mark. So this morning I dropped off my son in school.
Yeah.
Now, all the kids at the sound of a bell, they all stood up and recited the Pledge of Allegiance.
Real programmed.
I mean, that's for that point, I think it's good and bad. I mean, obviously, you want to have some kind of allegiance to your country, but at the same time, like you said, it's programming.
Yeah.
Now, if I can see 4 to 6-year-old kids already knowing word for word verbatim the Pledge of Allegiance, now teach them when they're small to not take the mark.
Yeah.
Teach them when they're small to identify it, so that once they're older, they know exactly what they're talking about, and they won't suffer like the rest that do take the mark.
Yeah.
So her name is Catherine Albright. It's Katherine. First name, last name is Albrecht. I would love to have her on this show. And I'll put the link onto the book. This is a book I want to get for my son. Right now he's kind of young, but as he gets older, maybe 5 or 6 years old, then I'm gonna want to have a talk with him about this, because it's something serious where my dad told me about it.
Yeah.
So the only reason I'm even aware, the only reason me and you are even having a show about this is because we know about it.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't even know about what the mark is or what it's referenced to, then it's not going to serve any purpose. But I would encourage, of course, the education of each other, even as adults, but of course the children, because they're going to be the future. Yeah. They're going to be the ones that, honestly, in my belief, more than likely, they're going to be the ones that are going to live through the time where all this goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and even if they don't, at least they know not to take it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's no excuse, especially for those out there that want to be Christian or that already profess themselves as such. just because you don't understand end times prophecy does not exclude you from the responsibilities of informing, which is what Armando's alluding to. When you partake of an ideology and a belief system, you have to partake of all of it, even those parts that you don't necessarily understand. End times is a very taboo topic amongst Christians nowadays.
It was, but I see more of a resurgence into.
Oh, there is, but there's
some
still,
circles. Some circles.
There's still some hesitation to talk about it because it's end times is literally still to come. It's not one of those things that we can look back on and philosophize about and debate about, that have already happened a very specific way, are set in stone, and you can have a limited amount of interpretations of. End times is still up for grabs. I mean, it's not limited to an amount of interpretations simply because it hasn't happened.
Yeah, so I think education is going to be vital, for one, to your survival, and for two, just so you can know what's coming.
Yeah, definitely. No excuse.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for not informing others.
Yeah, and don't keep that to yourself. Even like us, even though we don't agree with a lot of what the mark could be, whether it could be the social security number, whether it's some kind of ID,
genetic change,
whether it's kind of genetic change or a chip. No, at the end of the day, like you said, we don't know what it is, but at least we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Now, there's I've heard a pastor out there say that the mark's going to be some kind of national ID.
Yeah.
Now, it could be, but going back to it, the Bible is not American-centered.
Yeah.
So it would have to literally be a world ID in order for that concept to fit into this narrative.
Yeah.
So unless it's some kind of universal ID, then I could see that happening. But just if, let's say, for example, the U.S. were to institute some kind of national ID to replace driver's licenses, for example, or something similar to, let's say, like the elector card in Mexico.
It would need to be a world
It would need to be some kind of world where every government in the world is participating in it.
In the same thing.
Exactly. So I hate to be that guy that's like, you know what? The U.S. is awesome and great and I love it, but it's not the center of the world, man.
No,
and it's definitely not the center of biblical prophecy.
Yeah.
Now, is the United States referenced or even alluded to? I'm gonna leave that to the to the preachers out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just wanted to add that in.
I'm interested to hear on a later show, your thoughts about Babylon. As you mentioned it, you think it's not the United States. Yeah, let's not ruin that show, but it's going to be part of the End Times series for sure. So I don't know. Final thoughts? I'm pretty much good. I've covered everything I wanted to say. About
just
the mark.
The mark. Just don't take it.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't take it. Read your Bible. I think it's literally only like 4 verses that reference it, and none of them are good.
No.
Nothing good ever came out of taking that mark, and it's actually it's horrible. It's actually really, really bad what happens to those that take it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it, and it's not worth it. I'll be honest with you, it's really easy to say right now, don't take it. But I mean, I'm sure, like I said, if I'm here starving watching my kids die, or relatives or neighbors or the guy next to me getting shot in the head because he didn't take it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real easy to say it now, but in the moment of it, I would have just said, keep the faith, man, and remember your reward for not taking it.
Which, just because you didn't take it, also doesn't guarantee salvation. I needed to throw that in there.
Yeah, you got to be that guy. At this point, I think anybody who doesn't take it will probably be the remnant or whatever Christians left over. I don't see some random guy off the street just being that one anarchist, quote unquote Carlos, that just doesn't want to go with the flow and just, I'm going to not take it. I don't see it happening. I would say, you know what? If you don't take the mark, more than likely you're probably going to be a Christian.
So at the point of institution, there will not be non-believers.
Huh? Say it again?
At the moment of institution of the mark, there will not be non-believers in the gospel.
No, because those non-believers would be the ones getting the mark. So
well, yeah.
So then, what was your statement?
Well, that's the thing. There's of the ones not getting the mark, there's not going to be somebody not getting it because they're just.
Well, it's like saying I'm a Christian but got the mark. That at the same time, I mean, you're just a name only. Like you just lost it. Or it's like the atheist the atheist not getting the mark. Like, I don't see why he would not take it.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Like, I see. At the same token, we're not there. We don't know. I would think that at this point, after all the tribulation, after all everything else, and now you got this on top of it, it's kind of been weeded out to the point where, you know what, there's going to be very few people out there that are not going to take it. And of those very few, I would probably wager, not 100%, I would probably wager that those are going to be the faithful.
Yeah. So
now, there's always that one guy, like you just said, that doesn't guarantee, but I don't know. I would say, you know what, by that point, it's kind of been you're either with him or you're not. There's not going to be a gray. I would say by that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that makes sense for sure.
But,
so the mark is what, mid-tribulation?
Well, you're gonna have to read the book of Revelation.
Well, that's kind of why we're here to.
Yeah, and then we'll go through that. Yeah, and we can kind of. I honestly do not want to do like a timeline. I don't.
Yeah.
Because you can either view it as a timeline, as this happens, like step by step, which it does allude to.
Yeah.
Or you can take it to as this probably already happened, this might have happened, this is gonna happen already. It just it's extremely vague, and I'll leave that to the guys that the prophetic guys that did that.
Okay.
I can recommend some videos, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, definitely by that measurement, then it probably can't be pre-tribulation. I mean, there's no way of knowing. I think exactly what you said. At the moment it's instituted, everybody will be conscious that we are
by that point you kind of know what's going on.
In tribulation. And if you're a non-believer, I don't see non-believers not being informed. I see non-believers choosing to be non-believers, but honestly, at the point of institution of the mark, I don't think anybody will be not informed of what's going on. That's kind of what I meant a little while ago.
Or misinformed. But
yeah, to me, the non-believer at that point is a hardcore, I don't want to believe what the Bible says, even though I can see blatantly around me that everything it describes
is happening.
Pretty much is happening.
Yeah, but there's always going to be people like that.
I don't think there's going to be ignorant people at that moment. And just because Scripture mentions that the second coming will not occur until the gospel has been proclaimed in the four corners of the earth. So I don't think there will be like people caught off guard and just totally ignorant to biblical prophecy at that moment in time. But who knows? Comment below for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And so yeah, I think that wraps up the Mark of the Beast. Unless we get some awesome comments and somebody has some input that we would tend to at the beginning of the next program.
Yeah, or even if you disagree with us. I mean, of course, be tasteful about it.
Yeah.
But if you disagree with us, you know what? Fine, that's good. Let's open up a dialogue and show me why you disagree with us and back it up.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
So I guess for next show, I'm not sure yet where I kind of want to touch the whole before September 23rd happens. I kind of want to get into that so that we have some time. So the whole Revelation 12 sign, and maybe talk about Planet X and the Biru a little bit. Before we get into some of the other end times prophecies or subjects that are not on a ticking timer like the Revelation 12 sign is. which I don't think anything's going to happen. But whatever.
Yeah, definitely. And I would encourage you. So Carlos is referencing Revelation 12. This is Revelation 13. So if 12 isn't to happen on the 23rd or whatever, then 13 would follow. So if Revelation 12 happens, Revelation 13 is right behind it. So then,
if you want to view it chronologically,
yeah.
But then again, there's some of us that, I don't want to give too much away for talking about the Revelation 12 sign, but there's some of us that believe that Revelation 12 spans a good amount of time and is not describing one single event.
Yeah.
So Revelation 13 quite possibly would work into this huge amount of time and not happen directly after. But actually, that's a really good point. Without getting too far into it, because we're running out of time today, you're right. If Revelation 12 prophecy would be fulfilled, then that would require Revelation 13 to come exactly after it.
Would be following. Yeah. And I don't see the tools needed for these to be fulfilled.
No.
As of yet, now we can allude to it, shadow governments, all this, Illuminati, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know what? They exist. I'm going to acknowledge they exist, but to the point where it's necessary for these to happen, I don't think it's there yet.
No, not yet.
So that's why I don't think that...
They wish.
That's why they wish, but I don't think that it's going to happen on the 23rd. Because if the 23rd happened, then boom, 13 literally starts off with a dragon comes out of the sea, and it happens. It goes down.
Yeah, it goes down.
So that's why I'm just like...
Well, but...
You know what?
Here's the thing. If rapture happens, which I don't think so, but if it does, the whole biblical prophecy narrative got very real super quick and just completely invalidated some points of views.
Yeah.
Like post-tribulation rapture, obviously, but totally just blew the minds of everyone, which is honestly one of the main reasons, aside from all the biblical scriptures that don't really support it, unless you define metaphors in a very specific way. I think it would be too blatant for people to be raptured before stuff's hitting the fan.
Yeah.
As bad as tribulation is described as being. It'd just be like, there'd be more believers the day after.
Yeah, that's why. It's just, whenever some kind of event happens, the churches get full.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So, yeah. And I want to just verse 13, Revelation 13, verse 8. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. So, in order for this is way before the mark. This is the same chapter, but before the mark. So this beast would have to actually have already set up his reign,
his rule
in order for that to happen. And then on top of that, verse 9 and 10, whoever has ears, let him hear. If anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with a sword they will be killed. So that tells me anybody who does not worship the beast is either going to be into captivity. In other words, they're going to be imprisoned.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be killed with a sword.
Well, it could also mean that at that moment in time, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
In spite
and then
of
the last part of that
efforts.
verse, this calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people.
Yeah.
So that for me alludes that God's people are going to be the ones that are going to have to endure captivity or being killed by the sword.
And this is right before the description of the mark, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then,
because right after that, you're just going to I encourage you guys to read Revelation 13, but yeah, so in some places, it's a literal. This happens, so this happens, this happens, and this happens. And these smaller events. So, yes, I would say that. But I don't, I think I mentioned, I don't think we're near that yet.
Yeah.
I don't see the mark of the beast happening tomorrow. is what I'm saying.
No.
Or I wake up tomorrow morning, all of a sudden there's just this global government that was established overnight somehow without nobody knowing.
Too many conditions.
Yeah, that's why.
To be met,
and
and
not to be all like sarcastic, but even Jesus in 33 years couldn't get the whole world to worship him. What makes us think the devil's gonna do it like in a week? You see what I'm saying? It's just like, man, it's gonna take something like really, really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't after the worship of people.
So it's just like, I don't know. So it's for us to think that it's gonna happen within a matter of moments or months or even weeks. I think, like we talked before, I think it's gonna take years, if not generations.
Unless an alien invasion
comes, boom, you got V's coming out of nowhere. Then all of a sudden, everybody's eyes turns, and you know what? That actually might happen. I would encourage you guys to look up, of course, Steve Quayle, Timothy Alberino. I tend to agree with a lot of what they say, not everything, but a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of end time ministers out there. We'll throw some names out as the shows progress.
For sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty, everybody. Have a good night.
You too. God bless you guys. Don't take the mark.
God bless.
All right, later, guys.